Roque, thank you so much for being here on the FinTech Show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me today. It's wonderful to have you here.
Absolutely amazing. Well, I'm so happy that you could have us over at SmartStream's offices in New York. It's such a beautiful place and really excited to get your insights. Before we go any further, Roque, could you tell our viewers your full name, your job role, and your organization?
Sure. I'm Roque Martinez. I'm the CTO of the SmartStream Reference Data Utility. I manage all of the technical product and all the technical components of the reference data utility, as well as consult in the larger organization of SmartStream technically.
Roque, could you let us know a bit more about SmartStream?
Sure. So SmartStream does what I say, all the boring stuff after the trade. So we have products that manage cash, liquidity, reconciliations, fees management, reference data. We do on-demand, so when an organization says, I really don't want to manage all of those things anymore, you come to us, we do it all, soup to nuts. So like I said, we do everything after the trade. So it's very exciting for us, and it's been a business that the company's been in for well over 30 years.
A lot of banks and a lot of insurers are large-scale organizations with huge regulatory obligations. What are some of the challenges as a result that these institutions have to go through when trying to implement AI?
So basically, the way I look at it is friction into getting something done. And that's why artificial intelligence, machine learning, RPA, which falls into this realm, has taken off, is because organizations are looking to remove that friction to get anything done within an organization. So what SmartStream does is we remove that friction several ways. One, our software. We've launched AIR in the last year or two. And what that does is that's becoming a component that we're putting into all of our products because it reduces the friction to get data into a software that allows you to do the function that you want it to do. So for instance, in reconciliations, you want to take two files and you want to onboard them quickly and then have them reconcile, and then whatever exceptions come out, and you deal with them. The trick is you don't spend many days, hours, months trying to build rules to reconcile. That's what the product does. It says, we know what these things look like, and these two records are actually reconciled, and they move on. And there's a bunch of reduction in friction because people aren't doing that, machines are doing it.
I'd be really intrigued to actually find out some of the use cases where SmartStream has gone in and helped these organizations with this massive headache.
Right. So there's a large European bank that is one of our largest clients, and they wanted to reduce the amount of time it takes to do reconciliations, to manage their boxes, to manage their processes. And we went in there and we said, we're already doing part of your business. We already have some of your data. If you allow us, let us use that data we've accumulated over years and come up with better algorithms for you. We used our internal technology to reduce that friction that was there internally because of whatever monoliths were built and whatever happens in large organizations. By giving it to us having the data already, we were able to use our technology and reduce the amount of breaks that were in the organization, and we did it quickly, better, faster, because we're using our internal AI engines to now look at that data. So we removed the friction to get reconciliations done faster, but while doing that, we've also used some of our other products because they get faster inputs and they're able to do more within the organization to complete the processes that were taking hours. We're doing them a lot faster.
I think it's fair to say that AI is only as good as the data that powers it. So how does SmartStream come in and help these institutions make sense of all this data and ultimately provide the insights that they want from artificial intelligence?
So SmartStream uses the 3 V's. It has to be verified, so it has to be data that we know is trusted from an organization. there has to be value to that data. It has to be something that we know will help us get somewhere, and there has to be volume. It just can't be one record. There has to be several records.
We're seeing a lot of new demands from banks' corporate customers. So how can SmartStream help these banks grapple with these new demands in the corporate banking space?
Yeah, so we're actually looking at different models as well. So one of the models that we've been talking about, especially around the cash and liquidity management, especially what's going on in the press over the last few days, is to understand, especially when it comes to funding, if someone starts funding every day at, say, at 12 o'clock and they make their payments, and then it slips to 12:15, and then it slips to 12:30, then 1 o'clock, is there some velocity? Is there something in those events that are saying this other counterparty is starting to have some liquidity issues? So we're looking at those models to say, determine if the customer, the counterparty, is under 50 billion AUM and they always fund it at 12 and suddenly they go to 12:30, is there a liquidity problem? Do you shut them off? So that's one of the ways we're starting to look at all the data we've accomplished to see how we can improve. Instead of a human saying, oh no, I just got a call from my wrist that stop making those payments, is there something that could flash red on the screen that says, wait, don't do anything? The other one is not that we're using AI to improve. What we want to do is then in our reference data business, which is I'm part of, we're looking to provide as much clean reference data into the markets so that their engines could then produce better quality algorithms. If what goes, as you said, as what goes in is garbage, what comes out. So if you have a lot of breaks because your identifiers aren't correct, well, then you need to get a provider like us that gives you clean data to make sure your algorithms actually work properly.
Innovation around artificial intelligence is increasing. We're seeing new use cases every day, it feels like. So what are some of the use cases that inspire you, and how is SmartStream going to be spearheading these developments? Sure.
So on the customer-facing side, our fees and expense management product is starting to look at AI to a couple things. One is understand and read the documents that customers sign off on so they can extract all of those fees for doing the trades without having a human to actually go and say it's 10% on 1,000 or whatever the case may be. It's important, and the reason that's important is that we can onboard these schedules much faster and then get those savings to our customers, which then goes to their customers, that they're paying less fees because they're doing more transactions with a certain broker and they're getting the benefit. So both sides they're getting a little more business, but the counterparty is also saving money because they figured out, hey, that broker really has their act together. I'm going to do business with them, and I'll throw more business their way, and I'll actually get a reduction in fees instead of spreading it out on the street.
Now, one of the biggest spearheads in the finance industry's innovation and change over the last couple of decades has been the changes within the payments industry. So how does SmartStream help institutions grapple with the changes that have happened in payments?
Yeah, so what we're doing is so traditionally reconciliations is kind of you give me a file, we give you another file, and you kind of do it at some point. We're pushing the envelope to do it at the time that the transaction happens. So it would be what we're striving for as the payment is made at a terminal or wherever, the money gets removed, and then what we want to do is reconcile to make sure that that payment actually enters the system to the counterparty, and we reconcile it at that time as opposed to waiting 2, 3, 4, 8, 12 hours. The point is to do it at the time of the transaction to reduce the friction in that business. And we're looking to do it with other types of payments in the SWIFT network and the other networks so that as they move to real time, we're already there and we can process them at the time that the transaction happens. As well as we're looking for on-chain and off-chain reconciliations. So there are companies out there who are doing cross-border using blockchain, but what people forget is that there's an off-chain book that needs to be reconciled. So as that transaction hits the blockchain, we're looking to actually make that reconciliation on the off-chain books so that there's never a step out of sequence.
We're starting to see new international regulations or standards like ISO 20022. How is that increased data set going to change the way that artificial intelligence can be used in payments too?
Well, what it does is it makes sure that the data is accurate in place, as opposed to what happens now where a lot of the ISO standards are, well, we suggest you put that kind of data in this field. So the standard is going to come out and say, these are the domains, this is what it has to be, don't deviate. So what that does is, again, removes friction because that data is now standard, normal, and then we can use that to, what I say, stack, cleanse, and normalize and get the function done faster without having all the human interventions because someone decided, well, today I want to put a 2 and yesterday I put an A, but as long as it's standard now, then the function gets done and we can work all in the same playing field or pitch, as we want to say, across the world. So we anticipate it giving us the ability to make better models because the data is the same and we don't spend time creating pipelines to fix that data. Is essentially what it comes down to.
There's been a lot of changes in corporate banking. We're starting to see a lot more demands from corporate customers from their banking providers. So can you tell us how SmartStream uses AI to help institutions in this instance?
While we were working internally with AIR and some of its offshoot projects internally, we realized that text is a big topic of reconciliation. So every country kind of has a sanctions list, and then you have accounts, and then by changing one letter, it doesn't match because they're using old technology. Rocky with a Q and Rocky ROCKY, they're not going to match, but yet I'm on the sanctions list. So we're using that technology to go into some natural language processing matching. We have a bank actually in Asia that we're testing this with that needed to do this kind of sanction list testing and wanted to make sure they were better than what they were doing. So we're using some of that technology to actually do text reconciliation, and I call it fuzzy matching, but there's other terms for it. But the whole point is to use that technology not just for numbers, but also for text, so that we could do anti-money laundering, know your customer. So when someone gives you a name, you go check and you go, is this person on any of these lists that we are aware of? And then return, here are possibilities. As before, they didn't have that technology. It was kind of, it had to match. Now it doesn't have to match. It has to sound the same. There's phonetic searches, there's text searches, and we're doing all of that to make sure that we get into that market as well.
The insurance industry is going through a glow up, similar to one that the banking industry, the fintech industry did maybe 10, 15 years ago. So how can SmartStream help these large-scale insurers grapple with the same changes the banks did a couple of years ago?
Yeah, so insurance companies, remember, they cover people and they make sure that their premiums are safeguarded because they sometimes need to pay out on those policies. So what insurance companies have to realize is that the technology will help them handle their premiums better because they don't have to have armies of people typing in all kinds of policy changes, all kind of addendums to policies, and then keep track of every payment. Especially in the U.S., when you get an insurance, you buy, let's say, car insurance, and then you have all of these addendums to the policy, and they all cost $10, $20, and then you end up with a number at the end. That all has to merge up together, and a lot of it is done through older technology or people. So by focusing on using technology to process those payments faster, process those changes to policies faster, using natural language processing to understand what state you're in, as opposed to having a person say only this type of addendum is allowed on a policy. Doing that through a computer saves you people, saves you time, and allows you to actually get revenue in faster.
Now, Roque, I'm really intrigued to kind of pull together all your concepts now, and I want to know what the banking and insurance sectors of the future are going to look like being powered by organizations like SmartStream.
So where I see how AI is going to start changing insurance and finance is similar to what we're seeing with ChatGPT. We're going to start processing data in a way that allows new securities you never even heard of, be put together. Imagine now you have a bunch of quant guys. They say, hey, we take an apple, we take an orange, we have this new security. Well, with technologies like GPT, you could say, I'd like to have some kind of interest type product. And the technology is going to say, here are the 10 ways you can do something like that. So I think the creation of products, the creation of securities, the creations of different types of policies is going to come out of that type of technology. On the other side of this, there is some stuff we have to be careful with, is because for every good, there could be a bad. So there may be people who figure out how to use technology to exploit loopholes in contracts. So we have to be careful that that the industries understand that for every good, there's a bad, and you got to make sure that the good always wins and the bad we find it and we root it out very quickly. So in my opinion, the artificial intelligence is not going to be finding better algorithms. I think we're there already. What I think is going to happen is going to create securities and types of hybrids that we never even thought of, because we've never been able to put those neurons together. And that's what this new technology is doing. A lot of it's using neural networks to kind of make attachments to things that a human may not have thought of before.
Roque, thank you so much for being a part of the FinTech Show. It's been really fascinating getting your insights on such a futuristic technology that's certainly gathering a lot of traction. So I'm really excited to see where you and SmartStream are going in the next couple of years.